Thank you for joining me once again for another edition of Boxing News Today here on Talk and Fight. Let's go straight to some results that came out of a fight taking place in Michigan, USA. It looks like USBA junior middleweight belt holder Adriel Bossman Holmes Jr. Remains undefeated. He's now 15-0 with 6 knockouts as he destroyed crosstown rival Marlon Harrington in 2 rounds on Tuesday night. That took place at the Wayne State Fieldhouse in Detroit, Michigan. Holmes dropped Harrington 3 times in round number 2 to end it, and the time's at 1 minute 25 seconds. Also, co-main event, undefeated IBF number 7, WBO number 8 light heavyweight Ali Ismailov, now 12-0. Fighting out of Detroit via Russia, successfully defended his USBA title with a punishing 4th-round technical knockout against rugged Britton Norwood, who's now 13-5-1. Ismailov dropped Norwood with a body shot in round number 2, another body shot knocked down in round 4, and Norwood's corner stopped the bout soon after that at 1 minute 28 seconds. Let's move along to another story I see developing out of the UK. It looks like unbeaten WBA number 3 super middleweight Padraig McCrory, 18-0, 9 knockouts, believes Edgar Berlanga, 21-0, 16 knockouts, and his team have made a big mistake in picking him to fight this Saturday when they clash at the Caribe Royale in Orlando, live worldwide on DAZN, by the way. He said he's looking past me, talking about Jaime Munguia, Canelo Alvarez. He's not worried about me, but that's a big mistake, said McCrory. He's in for a nightmare. I'm definitely his hardest fight. I'm a big 168, and he's never taken anyone's 0. He sounds confident, but I think it's all show. He's trying to convince himself, and on Saturday, you'll see that I'm his biggest test. So some big words out of the Irishman there. Let's have a quick look elsewhere. Unbeaten cruiserweight Vidal Riley, 10-0, has signed a long-term contract extension with Boxer, that's BOXXER, and Sky Sports. Riley is also a rapper and a YouTube personality, 1.2 million followers. Wow. The camp of heavyweight Daniel Dubois has passed on an EBU European title fight against Granit Xhaka. The EBU board then unanimously picked Joe Joyce to replace Dubois against Xhaka. So we'll see what happens there. And someone who we haven't mentioned in a while, Triller TV, is presenting Hasim Rahman Jr., 12-2, against a mystery opponent on March 16th. And that fight will be shown on their pay-per-view channel, $19.99 US. So some good news. Let's see if there's any. I see Josh Taylor and Jack Cattle are still going at it, scuffling and having a bit of fun in their press conferences, trying to drum up support, obviously, for their England versus Scotland matchup. Nothing really worth mentioning there. I'll mention the Mauricio Sulaimán comments after his meeting last month with a whack of head honchos. So let's move on to, let's see what we got. Oh, yes. Good old Clarressa Shields. Speaking of, anyway, Clarressa Shields goes the story written by the fellows over at boxingnews.com, reposted on Yardbark. I've seen it here. Anyway, it's a good one. Clarressa Shields promises to end Keith Thurman's career. Okay. Now, we all know that Thurman's going up against Tim Sayu pretty soon, but she's doubled down her belief that she could beat Keith Thurman in a boxing match. Now, Keith's already responded previously and said he could beat her with one hand tied behind his back and wearing a bigger boxing glove. Anyway, the point of the matter is Shields is the current undisputed middleweight champion women's boxing and a 2-time undisputed champion overall. And that has put her alongside Terence Crawford and Naoya Inoue as the 2 fighters to have done it in the 4-belt era. Shields has earned her place in boxing history, but now she's taking a step further. She initially called out Thurman, stating she could get the better of him. Thurman responded, saying he's just not interested in the fight, but may be open to doing it for charity. He made the comment about doing it with one hand tied behind his back. Anyway, said Shields recently, I don't know what is with these men who have these huge ego problems, not just in boxing, but in life. Keith said he could beat me with one hand, he could wear bigger gloves, and I could wear headgear. I'm like, dude, stop. The guy walks around at 154. You're not that good of a boxer. You're not a world champ. Just tread lightly because I'll get in there and I'll fight him with both hands. So if she goes on, if Keith can downplay the greatest woman of all time and say he'll put on bigger gloves and fight with one hand, you're dang right. I can say I'm a better boxer than him because it's the truth. I had never been dropped with a body shot. I never lost in my career. I've got more belts than him, more gold medals than him. I move better than him. If he can talk that trash about me, I'm going to talk that trash about him. Keith Thurman ain't that good to beat me with one hand and bigger gloves. So now we all know, despite this, Shields' boxing skills against male boxers have been demonstrated. Her falling short. A sparring clip between her and Artur's Amatovs was leaked recently, showing her getting dropped back in 2018. Shields later alleged that Amatov's gloves were tampered with, which he denied after she allegedly stated that they had no padding. Anyway, on it goes, back and forth. Love the back and forth. Prompts me to launch another channel called the Boxing Channel, where I'm just going to solely focus on quotes, whether from boxers, trainers, managers, promoters. They're all good, whether they're funny or whether they're fierce. It's always good to see these pre-fight and post-fight comments. Anyway, I see, remember I was mentioning Chantel Cameron the other day. So Chantel has released a statement. She's split with her trainer, Jamie Moore, and will now be trained by Grant Smith. So Chantel is making some serious moves, I suppose. Let's see what else is on the... Oh, promoter Eddie Hearn. This is a good one. Promoter Eddie Hearn predicts Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou will bring in 1 million pay-per-view buys next month when they clash on DAZN and Sky in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Hearn believes the boxing fans are giving the former UFC powerhouse Ngannou a chance of winning after the way he performed in his controversial 10-round split decision last October against none other than Tyson Fury. Hearn feels that Joshua's recent win over Otto Wallen last December has put a lot of people believing he's now the best fighter in the world, says Hearn. And I would actually beat Fury. And the way Fury has looked in his last two fights against Ngannou and Derek Chisora, it's easy to picture Joshua. Don't do a job on that 35-year-old fossil. Whether that makes Joshua the number one fighter in the division would be hard to say without him facing Zhai Zhang and some other contenders. If Joshua beats Fury, you could say he's the best heavyweight in the UK, but not in the world. So said Eddie Hearn, I'm confident, but I'm nervous. Ngannou is a massive guy. Really? You're expected to win the fight. That guy Ngannou is 0-1, but you know he's a lump. He's very, very confident, said Hearn. He's got a good mindset, and he can punch very hard. There are a lot of things you need that are attributes in the heavyweight division. So I do expect AJ to do a job on him, but I expect it to be dangerous, and it's going to be one of them when it's all over and say, on we go. If we could do 1 million, it's a big fight, said Hearn. It's a mad world that we live in where you've got you're only as good as your last fight, where all of a sudden many people believe AJ could be the very best heavyweight in the world. He could beat Fury. He could do this. He could that. A lot more momentum behind him now. Plus that Ngannou-Fury fight. One of the problems with Ngannou-Fury fight was no one really thought Ngannou had a chance. I didn't, said Hearn. Now people are looking at him in that fight, dropping him and arguably beating him and nearly beating him and saying he might win this. So you've got the MMA world, you've got the boxing world, and you've got the casual world. Now you've got a lot of believers in Francis Ngannou, so I think it's going to be a huge night in defense of his statement that it will sell 1 million pay-per-views. Let's see. Well, let's move along to other big championship fights. A story by David Avila. 2 world title fights of significance take place in different continents as Denmark's Dina Thorsland defends 2 bantamweight titles and Clara Lescarat guards a super flyweight title this week over in Argentina. And both fights should be telling, he says. Thorsland has terrorized the bantamweights for 3 years now, and that was after beating up super bantamweights for 5 years. On Saturday, February 24th, that's coming up very soon, Thorsland, 20-0, seeks to continue her reign of terror against Turkey's undefeated Serenketin, 11-0. With 7 knockouts at the Royal Arena in Copenhagen, Denmark. Both the WBO and WBC titles will be awarded. In her last fight, Thorsland dominated Mexico's Julian Avila in a battle between world titleists, and it gained her the WBC title to add to her WBO belt. It also eliminated one champion in her quest to become undisputed bantamweight world champion. Others holding bantamweight titles right now are Japan's Mio Yoshida with the IBF and England's Nina Hughes. Both are mothers and protected of what they possess. It won't be easy for Thorsland, who seldom fights outside of Denmark. So opposing Thorsland this weekend will be Setin, a hard-hitting bantamweight who has not faced the same level of competition, but you never know until you get in the boxing ring. Boxing is a way of finding the truth. As Paul Malignaggi says, all the worlds in the world cannot help. True enough, and that gives me another reason to start this other YouTube channel called The Boxing Channel, where I will focus on great quotes. So over in South America, on that same night, super flyweight titleist Clarressa Shields, 9-0, undefeated, defends the WBA world title against Mexico's Regina Chavez, 7-3-3, at the Casino Buenos Aires in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Chavez usually fights at light flyweight. Lascarat is 35 years old and will be facing a teen in Chavez, who is 19. In the Argentinian fighter's last defense, she traveled to France and stopped Daniela de Jesus in 8 rounds last May, and is her 4th defense of the title. The super flyweight division has talented champions in the division, such as Mexico's Irma Garcia with the IBF title and Ashley Gonzalez with the WBC title. Then in Japan, there's the powerful and talented Mizuki Hiruta with the WBO version. If Lascarat continues her reign, an interesting showdown could take place with any of those other champions. So very good stuff to see. Coming up in March, by the way, he adds one thing. Golden Boy Promotions announced last week that Marlon Esparza, 14-1, will defend the WBA, WBC, and WBO flyweight titles against Argentina's Gabriela Alanez, 14-1. That's taking place on Saturday, March 16th at the Cosmopolitan Casino in Las Vegas. It's a rematch of their fight that took place last July in San Antonio, Texas, where Esparza won by majority decision. So let's 2 thumbs up for the women in the ring. Speaking of women in the ring, I see that we've got a good fight taking place in New England, potentially Massachusetts. Yes, Springfield, Massachusetts is going to see Coleman versus Nogue, a good fight. It's 7 p.m. doors at the American International College. Connecticut's Stevie Jane Coleman, she's 5-1 versus New Jersey's Michelle Nogue, she's 2-4-1. It's a super light bout and is taking place this upcoming weekend. So good to see New England back at it. We always report on fights taking place in and around New England, up and down that northeast coast. Anyway, let's have a quick look in conclusion at what Mauricio Sulaimán has to say. In addition to his comments the other day I mentioned, he wants to see 5 judges and video replay introduced, especially at that upcoming Tyson Fury-Alexander Usyk fight. But he also made mention this week that he had a meeting in January with what he says are the most important promoters in the world. It was an informal talk that was highly positive and focused on 3 different themes: the unity and respect that must exist between all members of the boxing industry, working together to make fights that the fans want to see happen, and leaving behind individual egos and pretensions. And speaking of quotes, as Don King has always said, working together works. At this particular meeting, which was without Don King, unfortunately, he can't travel due to his health. Anyway, at this particular meeting with Sulaimán and the WBC were Bob Arum, of Top Rank, Tom Brown, Luis Ducablas from PBC, Fernando Beltran, Eddie Hearn of Matchroom was there, Salvatore and Christian Cerci of OP2000, Tom Loeffler of 360 Promotions. And I'm sure others were present as well, and several others unable to attend due to their schedules. But nonetheless, it's good to see leaders in the boxing world get together, have a chit chat, and sort out how they might be able to work together to improve the sport on behalf of fans. It's a struggle, it's a fight, even at that level. So, thank you once again for joining me here on Talk and Fight. Appreciate it. Join me again tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern Time for Boxing News Today. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'll see you later on. And look out for my new YouTube channel called The Boxing Channel, where I'm going to feature a whack of different quotes from a whack of different people as we go by week, because they've always got something fun and or furious to say. All right, we'll see you again. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it.